we'll walk through putting a panel in and some minor adjustment to get all the doors running.
Perfect.
All right, so we have our first panel off the stack. The daily door, which is the first panel that we need to install, is always going to be slightly wider than the others.
Okay.
It's also the only one with any handle hardware. We want to kind of walk around the panel, do a quick inspection of the panel. Again, we want to notify the manufacturer as soon as you can to any blemishes, issues, that sort of thing. So I start at the top wheels. These are the taller wheels, and so that's how you know it's the top wheel. These are about 2 inches tall. There's a plastic mechanism that you want to cycle towards. You want to push this plastic piece towards the wheel. And that's going to cycle a pin that comes up in the center of the wheel, right? So if you push on that, you want to make sure that it's spring loaded, so it's going to have some pressure pushing against you. But you're really going to want to cycle that hardware and make sure that that pin comes out of the top of the wheel. That's a big part. We want to have, there's a secondary screw here. It's just mounted in a hole. We're actually going to take it out of that and put it into a different part once we have the door in. So it's just a convenience thing. Door holder, this should be protected from the factory. And so there's not much to inspect until we get the door in and hook that up.
So we want to leave this protection on while we're putting the door in.
Correct, just to keep that protected.
Perfect.
As we walk around, we're going to look at the seals on this flashing here. Want to make sure there's no rips, tears, any errors there. We're going to cycle all our lock hardware, make sure that everything operates smoothly, that we feel good about that. This is our latch mechanism.
It's a latch.
Our lower lock, make sure that everything feels good. Seals look good. Now on the bottom of the panel, you're going to have lower wheel guide cover on here. You want to make sure that that's secure. All your brush seals, again, regardless of if they're stacked vertically or laying flat, there should never be damage to these seals. They're not pinched or anything. So you want to make sure, inspect, there's no tears. And then this is probably the most important part of your panel inspection is this lower square wheel. It needs to articulate. And so you need to be able to pull away from the panel, and it's spring loaded. And so this allows that bottom wheel to kind of float through the bottom track. It's locked in as runners, but it allows, if the bottom track is not perfectly level, if there's some variation to it, if it's top hung, it's going to allow that bottom wheel to float and not impede the panel operation at all.
Now notice this has a square piece on the bottom, whereas this has a circular piece on the top. Is that?
Yeah, so this is just a runner. Those wheels actually run in a rail, whereas this slides. It's more of a slider than a roller. And so you'll notice that on this bottom wheel, you have 3 square sides, and then one of the sides you have a rounded side. All the other sides are flat. It's important to know when we're putting this panel in that we're focused on this bottom wheel.
Got it.
And then at the top and the bottom of the panel, you're going to have these flat end caps. These are taped on and siliconed on. We usually wait until later in the process to remove this tape. We know that we're going to have to put that panel in at this end of the track, this open end without a side jam. So we're going to put some blocks on the floor so we can stand this up. It's not on our toes. We can stand it up and get into the vertical position. And then from there, 2 people can lift it in and get that.
So this is an important time to remember we took end caps out of both the top and the bottom.
Correct. And that allows the wheel hardware to enter the track.
So if we went and tried to do this without one of the caps removed, then those wheels basically wouldn't be able to go into that runner.
There's no way for it.
Got it.
So it's important to make sure that when you're laying these blocks out, that the door holder hardware is not hitting those blocks, because you can break hardware if you're bending them up. So we're going to lift it from either side. We're going to move over. We're going to go up. So you can hold it there close to the end of the track.
Now again, this is a moment where it could be helpful to throw a block in near the front face of the door.
You bet. Would you like me to do that?
That would be great.
Yeah, have it lift up. Okay. So as you're working on this bottom wheel, you need to be very careful that that top wheel doesn't come out of the track. Because if it does, and my hands are underneath here, you can get a
full weight.
Right. So you just want to be careful of that. Now, like we talked about, this bottom wheel has 3 square faces all the way around, and then a rounded edge on one. So it's actually the surface is facing me. So I'm gonna pull it out and back around here. So this is a rounded face, this is a squared face, squared face, squared face, and then we're back to the rounded face. This rounded face needs to fit into this runner right in the side of this track. So it's sitting too high.
Okay.
So if you want to lift up on the front end,
Yep.
there, and then as you can see, it's in. Now, if for some reason I had put that wheel in the wrong configuration, it would be very difficult. It would be more difficult to slide along. It feels like there's no friction at all on that bottom. So that's what we want. We want to make sure that we have that bottom wheel in the right configuration. There shouldn't be any friction. It shouldn't be hard to move. It should roll very easily.
All right.
Cool. So now that those are in, we're going to basically have someone lift up on the front of the panel.
Yep.
It'll allow you to swing that edge around, and I'm going to get relatively close to that track, and we're going to walk it very close to parallel with the tracks until we get to that end.
Okay, perfect.
You're gonna kick it. Again, that all the weight of that side of the panel is carried by that wheel, and I'm just lifting up on this one. Now, as you get close to this end, you're gonna want to make sure that your door holder doesn't hit that opening hole. But then once you're past that point, so I'm gonna go past, and then as soon as my bottom wheel is gonna go into that lower hinge piece, I wanna be as close to parallel as possible with the tracks. Otherwise, there's gonna be some friction there. So now when my bottom is basically, I want my bottom to essentially hit at the bottom hinge piece there.
Yep.
And then my top track needs to pivot in, and then I can just open this door. Now, as I'm opening it, I have a half moon on the bottom that's interlocking into that bottom hinge.
Okay.
So I want to make sure that as I'm opening that, if I feel any friction or anything that's not allowing me to open this door very easily, it means that that half moon isn't sitting correctly on the bottom hinge. So if that's the case, I want to pivot this back towards perpendicular with the tracks.
If there's any friction.
If there's any friction, I want to go back and then make sure that I'm pushing that bottom wheel as far into that lower hinge as I can.
Right.
And then I'm reopening it.
Okay.
I shouldn't feel any friction.
Now, you had mentioned earlier kind of how one of the things that separates our doors is custom design. Now that we're really inspecting hardware on the panels and looking at how things fit together, this is where it seems like that's starting to have an impact.
Now the next step is to get that top locked in, and then we want to basically plumb this panel using the bottom hinge piece, moving it back and forth.
Okay.
So once we lock that top wheel in, it's not moving, and then we're gonna want to plumb that door.
Perfect. What do we need to lock the top?
So we need an M3 Allen wrench, the one that came in the kit.
Yep.
And we'll show how we cycle that hardware on the top.
Sounds good.
Once we have this door panel in, it's sitting perpendicular, we're gonna know if it's close to plumb just by if it's wanting to migrate. So if this top section isn't far enough along, that door's gonna wanna migrate this way, and if it's too close in, it's gonna wanna migrate the other way. So just by the weight of the panel, we can kind of tell where plumb should be. Now, what we're trying to do is we're trying to drive a pin up inside this wheel into the upper hinge piece. And so the way we do that is by taking this plastic piece here and cycling it in towards the wheel, and that's driving the pin up. So I can feel that I'm hitting something right now, so that means I'm not aligned with the hole. And so I know it has to go back that way, so I can kind of apply pressure and move that wheel back, and then now I feel like I found that hole. That pin is driving up into a hole. So now what I want to do is I want to remove this screw. Once I cycle this over, I basically want this plastic, this sitting flush with that stainless steel surface there, and I know that hole's going to line up. So now I can set that screw right in here, and it's already tapped and everything and ready for this screw. So as soon as I tighten this screw down, that pin is now in the up position, and this piece can't release because the screw is holding it in. So now that top is fastened in place, in the proper place, and now this can't move and this can't release. So our top pivot point is essentially fixed in place. All of our set screws in our hardware, we use the M3 Allen wrench that's supplied in the build box. And so that's what you're gonna use to set all these screws. So now we wanna hook up our door holder hardware. So this is all wrapped and protected nicely from the factory. Door holder hardware comes off. This arm can basically move all around, and where we want it to go is in line with this hardware. So we have our pins that we had in the build box or up in the top track. Sometimes production will actually put them in these parts with a clip-on, and so they could be in the track hardware already. They could be in here, and they could be in a bag inside your upper track, which you would have seen already. So all we're gonna do is line these things up. We can move the door until those holes align, drop the pin in. So now, once the door goes all the way out to 90 degrees, that door holder will hold it in place. Now we have to do the same on the bottom. Top door holders in, lower door holders the same thing. Once the packaging is removed, we can just rotate that in. Once the holes are lined up, you can drop that pin in. If it's not perfect, you can move that door around a little bit, get that pin dropped in from the top. There are clips in that bag that if you want to put a clip on the bottom, a lot of times it's just really hard to get access there. But on the top one, you could put a clip on that stops that pin from going out. Right now, it's just held in by friction.
So whether it's on the top or the bottom, both of the pins are going in from the top.
Correct. We should be able to operate this door, open and close it. We haven't plumbed it yet, but we should be able to operate it, and there shouldn't be anything binding anywhere. So as we close that door, we're gonna wanna make sure on the back side of that door that the side jamb, it's not pinching against the side jamb. So as I close this, you should be able to feel if it's hitting that side jamb, if it's too close. So again, this door now operates very smooth. We can open it to 90, these door holders will hold it. And so we know that it's probably relatively close to sitting plumb, but we're gonna do, make sure that it's perfect. So we'll open it to 90 degrees. We'll grab our laser level. It's a couple inches off the door panel. And now we're just gonna measure, we're not gonna measure from the tail end, we're gonna measure right over top of this lower track. So our tape measure should be sitting right over top of the lower track. We're at 2 7/8. We're gonna come up right underneath the top track. We're not out in this tail end, we're right here. And we're at 2 7/8. So we are plumb on this door. Now, we might do some micro adjustment later on, but this door is sitting pretty plumb. Now our top of our panel is fixed in place, it's not moving.
Okay.
So the only way to change plumb of panel is to move the bottom in or out.
Okay, swing it in or out.
Correct,
Okay.
and we do that using the bottom hinge. So right here you can see there's one screw in the bottom hinge in this adjustment slot.
Right.
And so basically if I loosen this off, I can now move the bottom of this panel around.
Okay.
Right? So what I want to do is basically move it around until I get it perfectly plumb. I'll set that screw in, then I'll add a second screw to make sure that that hinge piece is locked in.
Held nice and tight.
Correct. So I'm at 2 7/8
Yep.
up here, and I'm going to come down and measure here, and I'm at 2 7/8. I can come out just a little bit, and then I'm going to lock that screw in.
Okay.
So you can see there's an additional one hole right beside that slot.
Right.
And then there's another one farther back.
Okay.
So I want to put a screw into one of those holes so that we don't have to worry about this thing moving. So normally I'll pick this screw that's closer to the daily door.
Okay.
That hole. And so I'm going to take a 9/64 drill bit